We have talked about many topics on floating point arithmetic. This is a little bit involved topic, as you see. The representation is a little complex, and in particular, the arithmetic operations like addition, multiplication, those are a little bit complex. And multiplication we have not studied yet. And today I will give you some example on multiplication as well. So let us make a quick review. And if you have any question or doubt regarding floating point representation or there's the issues in arithmetic, please let me know. Okay. So this is the slide which we discussed many times. So basically, as you know that when we talk about single precision arithmetic, I have 1 field for the sign, 8 field for the exponent, and 23 fields for the mantissa. And there is a hidden one which is not explicitly represented here. So this is called normalized range. It means that whatever you have the mantissa, before that you need to write one binary dot following and then this mantissa part. So therefore, and since you have this finite number of bits for exponent and mantissa and so on, so you have some kind of smallest value and largest value that is representable in the normalized range. And since these two exponents have special use, so the smallest value would run from, so this is the minimum exponent in the normalized range you can have, and this is the minimum mantissa that you can have, which is equivalently 1.0 multiplied by 2 to the power minus 126 because we have excess bias. So this is of the order of 10 to the power minus 38. Similarly, the largest value for the exponent you can have, we cannot have all 1 because that is reserved. So you have maximum you can have 254 here, and which turns out to be 2 to the power plus 127 because of excess bias. And in order to maximize the mantissa, we write all 1 here, which turns out to be equal to 2.0 minus 2 minus 23, right? And so this is the maximum range. So between the maximum and the minimum range, we notice that there are some range which in which you can represent the numbers. So this is the maximum largest possible value on the positive side. This is the smallest possible value on the positive side, and similarly on the negative side. So these are the numbers. And in between you have these representable zones, and on both sides. And when I say representable, it means that you need to do approximation, because since we are talking about real line, there are infinite number of real numbers are not countable. So, but when we express in floating point number, that means you are having some kind of discrete sampling here, because you have so many finitely many bits. So therefore, whatever real numbers you have, you are going to make an approximation with this floating point. And if you go beyond this range, that becomes overflow. And if you go beyond this smallest representable normalized range, it becomes, that is underflow on both directions, positive underflow and negative underflow. So you have any question here? And remember that, yes? One thing that when I talk about these representable numbers, so there are discrete values of floating point. So there is a question whether these discrete samples are equispaced in this interval, So think about that, whether they are equispaced or their spacing becomes gradually different, Think about this exponent value as well, and you will find the answer. Okay, so and then we introduced what is called the denormal numbers in order to so we use this region as well to represent some of the numbers by choosing the smallest value instead of this, by choosing this one and choosing some non-zero value in the mantissa field. So that's what we do and this is called the gradual underflow. And these numbers are called denormal numbers. They are not normalized because you don't have a leading 1 here. Instead, you have a leading 0 here. And the exponent is the same as this one, which is the same as the smallest value. And since you have a choice of m, which may run from all 0 to all 1, again, you have this minimum value and the maximum value. So that gives you an additional opportunity of representing, if you use this exponent value, you may represent some additional numbers within this range, which would have been underflow. Therefore, this underflow limit, this limit becomes closer to 0. This boundary would approach here, and because the minimum is still less, so therefore the zone of underflow would be, if you consider the normal numbers, would be smaller. These two boundaries would become close to each other. You understand that? And this is what is called the denormal numbers. And you have this maximum, this is the minimum value here. So you observe that this underflow region now reduces. Previously was, if you consider only normalized numbers, this is so big, and because of denormal number, this boundary becomes closer to 0 on both directions, both in positive side and the negative side. Well, so that's all about representation. And once you understand this, maybe we can review the arithmetic. In arithmetic, we have a couple of questions. Now we want to clarify this today. Well, so far is okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let us go ahead. We consider floating point addition and consider this example. I'm considering a floating point addition in binary domain. And you assume that I have a 3-digit mantissa. Just for the simplicity, we are considering this. So that means this is the leading one, and after that we have 3 bits in hand. So that's my universe. So suppose I want to perform arithmetic operation between these two. So this is the exponent, and this is the exponent at the power of 2. And here is a minus sign. It means that basically you are subtracting this amount from this. So what is the first step I need to do? If you look into the exponent, I need to align the binary point. So we have exponents 2 to the power minus 1 and 2 to the power minus 2. What I'm going to do next? Align the exponent. How do I align it? You can make this exponent 2 to the power minus 2, or you can make this exponent 2 to the power minus 1 by shifting this binary point. Isn't so? For example, if I shift this binary point one bit on the right, on the other hand, if you shift this this binary string to the left 1 bit, then this could have been 2 to the power minus 2. And on the other hand, if I shift this binary string to the right 1 bit, then it could have been 2 to the power minus 1. So which one I'm going to do? You have 2 options. So this is a question here, which one I am going to align, I am going to change, the bigger exponent one or the smaller exponent one. Is the question clear to you? Also notice that this one is hidden. So during operation, we have restored it. Okay. And binary points, shift right the number with the smaller exponent. So I'm going to shift, this is the smaller exponent, I'm going to shift this one. So you tell me why, why not this one? As far as hand arithmetic is concerned, both of them could have been okay. See, the thing is, finally we are going to add these two numbers. we are going to have some binary addition operation. If I shift this number, in which direction I have to shift? I have to make this 2 to the power minus 2, right? So therefore, I need to shift this binary string to the left. So this binary point will come here. So you have 2 leading digits before on the left of the binary point. On the other hand, if I do this, my leading point is going to reduce, right? My leading number of bits will going to reduce. I don't want to have more bits before the binary point. So that's one reason, because otherwise my addition process would have been complicated. So therefore, since this is the smaller exponent, I'm going to make it equal to this one. And in order to do that, since the exponent is being increased from -2 to -1, so therefore this number has to be reduced. So and that's why this binary point should be shifted here. In other words, the string should be shifted right 1 bit. Shift right the number with the smaller exponent. Now, as you see that I have 4 ones, but as I shift, my universe comprises three digit mantissa. So 1 bit is the rightmost bit. This blue one is lost. Okay, so keep in mind that this bit is lost when I shift it. It might happen because when you are shifting towards the right, some bits will be lost. In case of addition, you have 23 bits here, so some bits might be lost beyond that because of shifting. Okay. Here, if you shift on the right, no bits would be lost, but since you have more digits on before this binary point, that would create other problems. Well, so let us proceed, see what happens. So now you are going to add these two exponents. Here, this is a subtraction operation anyway. So they are equalized. So I'm going to subtract 0.111 from this, right? And if I do this, it is going to be this one. Okay, 1.0 minus this, so this will be this. Now, how do I perform this subtraction or addition in hardware? What kind of adder do I need?
We can use integer adder.
Right, integer adder is good. So if the next question is, we can use integer adder, fine. And integer addition, we know that in case of integer addition, we might experience some kind of overflow. So will that occur? I mean, that situation might arise here too.
But here doesn't have 32 bits.
Say it again.
But here 32 bits. This the Mantissa and exponent doesn't have 32 bits. Mantissa and exponent will do it separately. And Mantissa will do it separately.
Actually, in the sense of overflow, it might happen, but it is managed differently. You know, see, you have 1 point something here. The bigger one, the bigger one is 1 point something, right? And the smaller one, after shifting, it should be 0 point something, right? Anyway, so what could be the maximum value of this these two numbers? This is 1.11 something, right? And this is 1.11 something. So if I add this integer addition, in the worst case, you can have this kind of thing, right? So you will have 2 more digits here, 2 digits here on the left of this one. So in integer addition, we take care of this. We take care of this option. There will be no overflow here. Overflow might occur when you are going to try adjust this after addition, when you are going to try to adjust this exponent by normalizing it. in that case overflow might occur. But this addition will not create any overflow. That has been taken care of. So this is an important point here. And so in this case, I need to normalize this. That means this one has to be shifted towards the left. And therefore, this exponent has to be adjusted. Now, when you are going to adjust this exponent, this might create some overflow because this exponent is going to be incremented or decremented depending on where this binary point lies. And when you are doing so, it might exceed the acceptable range of the valid range of the overflow. I mean, valid range of the exponent. And in that case, overflow or underflow might occur. But here overflow will not occur in this integer addition part. Okay, so and then what we'll do that we'll do some kind of a rounding operation and renormalize if necessary. Now from this example, it is not clear how the rounding operation will be performed because we don't have any bits here, all bits are lost. And so therefore, in this particular example, there will be no change, and this is the output we obtain from this arithmetic operation. Now here is an important question. See, we are doing arithmetic operation. We have sign bits also. So we have positive and negative numbers. So at the end, what will be the sign of the result? You know.
Positive.
Yeah, positive, but how the hardware would determine, you know, how the sign would be determined later on here.
Sign of the higher exponent.
Well, you can see if both are positive, then we don't have any problem, right? We know that the final result would be positive. If both are negative, then we know the final result would be, I mean, if both are negative in the sense that, I mean, you have something minus, you have a negative number minus another negative, minus another number. So if both are negative, then the final result would be negative, no problem. Now, if one is positive and other is negative, for example, here, so then you know that the higher exponent value, you know, would predominate. So if the higher exponent value is positive, then it will be positive, otherwise it would be negative, clear? So that's how the sign would be adjusted in the final result, and the hardware would take care of this. Well, so we'll give you an example of this rounding in a later slide. So there are two important issues here, three important issues. One, you shift the smaller exponent number with the smaller exponent. There are integer addition, but overflow doesn't arise here, and sign is taken care of by looking into the exponents and the sign of the originals. Well, so let us look into these two numbers, A and B. And you see that we are in single precision. So I have a number, you have an exponent here, you have an exponent here. Which one I need to shift then? Which one is the smaller exponent? A has the smaller exponent, right? So after shifting, what I'm going to observe? One thing remember that when you are talking about shifting, before shifting you have to restore the hidden bit. Isn't so? So here is the flow of addition process. You compare the exponent of two numbers, shift the smaller number to the right until the exponent matches with the larger exponent. For example, in this case, this has smaller exponent, and therefore I restored the one here, one followed by all zeros, and then I'm going to shift this content towards right one bit because there is a difference of one in the exponent field. So it becomes A becomes after shifting 0.1 followed by all zero, and B becomes, so B remains as is. B is 1 point, 1 is restored 1.1 and all zero. So that is so to start with. So after step one, we would be getting this. compare the exponent of the two numbers and shift the smaller number to the right. So we get this. And then you keep on, add the significant, normalize the sum, either shift right or shift left, depending on the exponent value, check whether overflow or underflow. If yes, then something needed to be done. Otherwise, you round it by using some technique which you have not yet discussed. And the rounding may disturb the normalization. Keep on looping this and exit. So that leads you to some kind of hardware architecture like this. So this here you see this. We have the sine exponent and fraction, sine exponent and fraction. These are the two inputs, and I need a hardware so that we would compare between these exponents and take appropriate shifting action. And after the shift has been done, the exponent becomes equal. Then you keep on adding the mantissa. And then you need to shift and round because in order to achieve normalization and keep on doing this. Finally, you need to decide about the sign by the method, whatever we discussed just now. So in hardware, as you see that we talked about this basic hardware scheme in the previous class. So now it would be a little bit more clear to you. So these are my two inputs. This is a small ALU which looks into the two exponent and compares them, which one is bigger. And there is a controller which takes care of choosing the input with the smaller exponent and shifting accordingly towards the right, so that now they are ready for addition here. And these multiplexers are needed to pass the appropriate inputs to this through this data path. So once the ALU is done, again, you need to shift or left or right and increment or decrement to the exponent value, and the rounding hardware there, and finally sign is determined. So basically, you have these steps like compare exponents here, shift smaller number right, equalizing exponent here, and then add integer addition here, step 3. Finally, normalize here and round, which needs additional hardware, and finally get the result. So this is the overall flow. And so now I would give you a small example to illustrate how this rounding is performed and what some bits are lost, as we have seen in the previous example. When I shift the smaller number towards the right, some bits may be lost. Okay, so how do I manage those bits, and how do I perform the round operation at the end? So in order to do that, there is IEEE, as per IEEE recommendation, the structure is like this. So what is actually is done is the following. So this is my this whatever you see here. The programmer's viewpoint. This is the part which is visible to you, the sign, exponent, and mantissa. So this could be 32 or 64 bit depending on the single precision or double precision. Apart from that, there are 3 extra bits which are augmented to it, and this is visible to hardware only. You don't see it. And the first one is called the guard bit, second one is called the round bit, and the last one is called the sticky bits. Okay, so these guard bits, when you shift, so these guard bits, there may be many bits may be shifted. So the last one which has been shifted, that is the most significant bit, right? As far as the shifted bits are concerned. So that is called guard bits. And when you perform arithmetic operation, you do not ignore this bit. You consider this bit and operate on the arithmetic, so that it becomes more accurate. And finally, some bits are stored here, and sticky bits is the logical OR of all bits which are shifted out of this R. So that means it takes care of whether there is an 1 here. Okay, so they might have an impact on finally when you are going to do rounding. So these extra bits are managed by hardware. You don't see it. These are called guard, round, and sticky in that sequence. And so the purpose is to achieve accurate arithmetic such that rounding of significant, otherwise some bits would have been lost during right shift. So it manages somehow, it improves the accuracy. I won't say that it would be exact arithmetic, but some accuracy can be restored. It improves the accuracy to some extent without causing too much, hardware. It reduces hardware without compromising precision. All we need is to give some extra bits in hardware here. Well, maybe the purpose of the guard bit, when you shift bits to the right for alignment, some bits are lost, as we have seen earlier. And we may need to shift the result to the left after normalization and after operation and during normalization. And then if we would have this information of whatever bits have been shifted, we could have made our operation more accurate. And that's why this guard bit, one extra bit is kept here. So storing the last bit shifted to the right would make the results more accurate during normalization. And that is the purpose. And round and sticky bits provide further handles for accurate rounding. Well, let me give you a small example here. So this is my one operand is this, which is exponent is 2 to the power 5. And there is another operand which exponent was less, but we have already shifted it, by 7 bits to make it equal. So this is after shifting this second operand. Okay, so shifted right by 7 bits. So if you don't have anything, you have this only this portion, right? Because these are the bits which are shifted out. So now we have a guard, round, and sticky. The guard saves these bits, round saves these bits, and sticky saves the ORing of all these bits. Logical OR of all these bits, which is called the OR reduce. Okay. So if I perform arithmetic operation, suppose I don't use this guard bit and all this thing, just perform the arithmetic operation here. This is subtraction. So I'm going to get this one, And this sticky bits, we take all of them, and finally we get this, But if I keep this guard bit, so then considering the guard bit, if you perform this subtraction, then the result would have changed. And you would have got a better improved result, more accurate result. And that is the purpose, So the result which you see here is not considering the guard bit right now. Okay. I think you got the idea. If you consider the guard bit, it means that, since you are subtracting, then the result would further reduce, It would be further, for accuracy, this should be further reduced because there are some significant bits here which are lost. And then when you normalize it, you are keeping shifting and so on. And finally, you may need to round it because see there are a round bit 1 and a sticky bit 1. It means that there are significant values which have been shifted out. In case of rounding, that information may be useful. So please go through this example, and this gives you some idea how these 3 bits are managed. Well, I mean, this is just for the completeness of the discussion. Actual mechanism and the rounding techniques is much more involved because in IEEE there are 4 types of rounding operations. We are not going to discuss them in detail. I just want to give you an overall idea that how these bits can be used to improve the accuracy. All right. Well. So now let us move into this multiplication, and then we'll be done. Now multiplication appears to be a little simpler than floating point addition, because as before we have 3-digit mantissa here, and this is the hidden one we have restored, and so we have a positive number and a negative number, and we are going to multiply this. So in case of multiplication, what I need to do is to add the exponent. I don't need this exponent comparison and equalization. So that part becomes simpler. Multiplication means you add the exponent and then multiply the significant. No balancing is needed, right? You add the exponent. Now -1 plus this -3, but notice that this is excess biased and this is excess biased. When you add them together, the bias is also added together twice. So therefore, whatever you get, you know, you have to make it adjustment here, right? To make the final bias to the biased exponent. All right. And then you multiply the significant. So this is the significant and this is the significant. Here the management of sign is very simple. If both sign are positive, the result is positive. Both negative, result positive. One positive, one negative, result is negative. So multiply significant using a multiplier, integer multiplier, whatever you get, and then you normalize it. And when you normalize, the exponent might change. Again, check for overflow or underflow. And you may use this this guard bits and etc. as before for getting a little bit more accurate result. And then using those extra bits, you may round and renormalize if necessary, keeping in the loop, and then get the result. So this flow is more or less a little bit simpler compared to the addition process because we don't have to worry about the equalization of exponents. Determine sign, well, positive multiplied by negative is negative, otherwise all positive. So if you look into and we know that how to multiply this, how to multiply the significance in the integer domain. You just consider integer multiplication here. Just ignore this binary point. Just do the multiplication and then take care of how many digits are there before this binary point, and take care of and shift them during the normalization step. Well, so let us see that what sort of hardware resources we need. So let me first of all let me tell you the overall flow. You start here, add the biased exponent of the two numbers, subtracting the bias from the sum to get the new biased exponent. You subtract the bias because the bias is when you add the biased exponent, you add 127 twice, so you minus one. At least you minus one bias has to be subtracted to get the actual bias of the product term. And then you multiply the significant using integer multiplication, normalize the product if necessary, shifting right and incrementing the exponent. And see here, all you need to is you need to shift right. You don't need to shift left, because after multiplication it is going to increase anyway. Overflow, underflow, yes, some expression. Otherwise, round the significant to the appropriate number of bits. Normalized, yes. Set the sign. Otherwise, repeat it along this loop a couple of times and until it becomes stable. In terms of the hardware resources, so these are the inputs. Input information: sign, exponent, fraction, sign, exponent, fraction. So there is step one: sign that we need an adder to add the exponent and then subtract 127 from the result. And take the fraction, take the two fractions, use a multiplier to multiply the Mantissa part, significant part. After addition, you subtract the bias to get the final the bias for the exponent. And once you have this Mantissa, after multiplication, since this is just multiplication of the absolute value, so the result is going to increase anyway. So that's why you need only right shift for normalization. Left shift is not needed here. Adjust the exponent, check for overflow, underflow, and adjust the sign and result. So in terms of an integer multiplication, you remember that we can use this architecture for integer multiplication, repeated shifts, and etc. So in terms of hardware realization, that is what is going to happen. So you have sign, exponent, significant, sign, exponent, significant for the two numbers to be multiplied. There is an LU here, which performs exponent plus exponent minus bias. So this is just integer operation here. And then you take the significant, restore one point something, and here also 1 point Mantissa, multiply, integer multiplications, multiply the significant and significant, and then shift right only. No shift left is needed here. Shift right, there is a controller. If overflow, underflow, do this rounding logic, keep on doing this. And this exponent may be incremented because of the shift right, and finally the sign is adjusted by the sign logic, you get the result. Well, so that gives an overview of overall perspective of floating point multiplier as well as floating point adder, which we discussed last time. So we are done with floating point arithmetic, and there is hardware implementation. And and to touch upon a few more things, that if floating point multiplier is of similar complexity of floating point adder. It uses a multiplier for the multiplying the significant. The floating point arithmetic hardware usually does addition, subtraction, multiplication, division also, but division we have not covered. A reciprocal can also perform square root. So those are we are unable to cover in this syllabus. And there are this floating point to integer conversions also that can be done. And these operations usually take several cycles. So typically a pipeline architecture used to reduce the cycle time. And I think you have already written programs using floating point instruction in MIPS. And the floating point hardware is called in MIPS, it is called coprocessor 1. This is an adjunct processor that augments this instruction set architecture. And we have in MIPS, there are 32 separate floating point registers, single precision, and they can be paired for double precision. You have used these instructions, right, in your lab? Like this, the load store using this coprocessor 1. And when you do this, these are single precision arithmetic. It's a dot S means single precision, but these registers, if you do floating point, then these registers must refer to the floating point registers, which are indicated as F1, F0, F1, and so on. Double precision, you do this D and so on. So these are the instructions which are available in MIPS. Well, so in summary, computer arithmetic is constrained by limited precision, both in integer domain as well as in floating point arithmetic. Bit patterns, they have no inherent meaning, but depending on the execution cycle, the machine interprets them. And we have standards like IEEE standards for interpretation of the floating point and regular standard for interpreting the integer number. So we have TOOS complement for integer representation, IEEE 754 committee recommended floating point format, both for single precision and multiple and double precision. During the execution cycle, the meaning of the bit pattern is interpreted. I mean, whether it is an instruction or data, and if it is a data, whether it is an integer or floating point, I mean, what is it? Performance and accuracy are very important while you're designing hardware. And as you see that there are many complexities and implementation challenges when you design the supporting hardware for implementation of different instruction sets. So that's all about summary. And in conclusion, let me just discuss a small problem with you. Well, so this is the problem. So there you have an integer S, and I'm going to perform. I want to compute S by 9, divide by 9, and maybe you take the floor of that using only integer operation, addition, subtraction, and shift. S is an integer. Don't use the division operation or division instruction. It means that suppose in hardware, I want to implement in hardware, so I supply only a mechanism for shifting and an integer adder, and I want to perform this. I want to compute S by 9. How would I do it? So whatever knowledge you have in computer arithmetic and your instruction set, where you are, just tell me that I want to design a hardware for implementing this using shifter and integer adder. Of course, this would be approximated, because if I want to divide by 9, this is going to be a floating point operation anyway, right? How do I approximate using integer addition and shifting? Instead of S by 9, suppose I give you S by 8, then it would have been easy. Isn't so? So can you use S by 8, dividing by 8, because dividing by 8 is nothing but shifting towards the right. Can I repeatedly divide by 8, using some kind of trick so that you can approximate S by 9? So you got the problem, right? Any thoughts on it? There is a simple trick by which you can do this. So you understand the difficulty of dividing by 9, because it involves floating point arithmetic. But I don't want to do that. In my hardware.
Repeatedly subtract 9 and keep a counter.
Well, that you can do, yes. I mean, repeatedly you can subtract it, yes. That it is division by repeated subtraction. That's one way of doing it, yes. But see, there is a clever way of doing this. Let me share this technique with you. So I have S by 9, right? So what I'm going to do is this. Let me look into this expression. So this is a continued series up to infinity. What I'm going to do is S minus S by 8, and then S minus whole thing by 8, and so on. It's a continued series sort of thing. And I claim that this continued series is exactly equal to this value, Z here. How? Because, see, this is a continued series. And look into this part. So this says this is up to infinity. So this is same as Z, right? Because Z is, say you have the series divided by 8, so same thing here. So you can write Z equal to, so the same thing here. So you can write Z equal to S minus the whole thing is Z divided by 8. And if you just solve this, it becomes Z equal to S by 9, right? So now what I'm going to do is to do approximation. Instead of I cannot do this up to infinity, but I can repeat this up to a certain number of steps, maybe 3-4 steps, and that would serve my purpose. So what I'm going to do is this. I start with S, I shift right 3 bits, which is equivalent to divide by 8, and then I do the subtraction. And then after doing subtraction, I again shift by 3 bits towards the right, do the subtraction, and keep on iterate this process a couple of times, and would approximate this, Yes. So instead of repeatedly subtracting this, this gives you this hardware would give you, I mean, all you need is shifter and integer adder. This would converge much faster. And not only that, instead of S by 9, suppose I give you S by 7, you could have done a similar kind of trick, Suppose I give you, say, S by 255, what would you do? S by 256 is okay, because 256 is a power of 2, you can do just shift. Some bits will be lost, but I'm taking the floor of that. I need to do right shift for division, so some bits will be lost here. So instead of S by 256, suppose I give you S by 255 and ask you how to do it, you know. So you can think of this kind of some kind of continuous series, you know, continued fraction, and you can do that. You know. Well, so I leave it to study those kind of problems. So I am done with arithmetic, and we finish our discussion on computer arithmetic, including integer operation and floating point operation, and hardware implementation of that, adder, multiplier, both in integer domain as well as in floating point domain. So we finish our discussion on computer arithmetic. Next time we'll pass on to memory design. So maybe we can stop today. Any question?